Felice.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the board meeting on December 8th. Hope everybody had a nice Thanksgiving. And just a reminder that if we do have an emergency, we're to exit out the rear of the building, or the closest exit, if that isn't, the other end. Go to your vehicles. Please do not leave until so directed by emergency service personnel. Do not smoke in the building, but you must go outside. Little clerk.
Yes, good evening, everybody. Just one approval tonight for the board meeting minutes of November 24th, 2014.
One correction. On the fourth page. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 8th paragraph, where I talk about the water going right underneath, it should have been the trestle, not the trellis. That's all.
Motion to accept the change?
Motion.
Second? Okay. Aye. Okay. Mr. Closet, not with us this evening, please.
Yes. Top 5 bills for the period total $509,329.18. Excuse me, total bills. Top 5, Children's Skidmore, $58,269.69 for our quarterly insurance. Lums, $30,000 for the bid grant. Zazimo Macalbo, $25,000 for the bid grant. Eastern Resource, $24,941.32 for landfill charges. And Russell Reed, $17,792.80 for sludge removal, for a total of $156,103.81.
Motion to accept as presented?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And just one more item, approval to loan from the general fund to the capital projects fund, $135,160.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Public hearings.
Okay, first of 3 public hearings this evening. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing be held on Monday, December 8, 2014, 6 p.m. in the Municipal Building, 14 Baker Street, Patchogue, New York, by the Village Board of the Incorporated Village of Patchogue to consider overriding the 2% tax cap as established in General Municipal Law 3C, copy of which proposed local laws on file at the Office of the Village Clerk. At said public hearing, I just forgot that. Any person interested would give me the opportunity to be heard. Sorry.
As you know, that the state has a 2% tax cap. One of the concerns you always have with the 2% tax cap is that if you make any errors, and in fact, our 2% tax cap last year was not 2%, it was 1.54, because 2%, or whichever is lower. So, the overriding the tax cap is for 2 purposes. Purpose number 1 is to protect the village when we do our budget. If we're under the 2% or whatever the cost of living is at that point in time, we make an error that we don't get penalized the following year. And the other is obvious, is that if after we do the budget, there is a reason to pierce that, we have that opportunity to do it. Comments by the board?
Mr. Mayor, fellow trustees, fellow residents. One of the primary reasons for seeking this, what I consider to be an insurance policy, is that certain mandated expenses that come down from the state are totally out of our control. Our health care costs and our retirement costs are numbers that are given to us. We don't negotiate them. They just come to us. And it's very instructive if you look at the history of this number over the last however many years. At the last meeting, our treasurer mentioned that in 2004, it was $54,000, and last year it was $850,000. Now, if you look at the number from 2008 to now, In 2008, it was $284,000. The next year it dropped $20,000. We got a bonus, it went down to $263,000. The next year was pretty much the same, $264,000. Then it went up $170,000 from one year to the next, $429,000. Then it went up $250,000 to $685,000. Then it went down $8,000. Then it went up $175,000. Those are big numbers in our budget, okay? So advocating being able to pierce the tax cap, when we don't know what this number is just common sense.
Well, if you take $850,000 on a $10 million budget, that's 8.5%. If you take the fact it went up $175,000 from last year to this year, that's 1.75% of whatever we would get on 2%. Because it's not 2% of the $10 million budget we have, it's 2% of our tax levy. Our tax levy is about $7 million, so it's really only about $140,000. And last year, because our tax cap was based upon whichever's lower, was 1.54. You know, if you do the math, you realize you're about $105,000. It was a total increase. You know, one of the issues, I mean, many of you know we pay Bay Avenue. Bay Avenue, we split the cost of the town of Brookhaven. Thank you very much. It was $270,000 to pave it. We had to pay $135,000. Not much you can do with $105,000 that they allow you the increase to be. So there are a lot of things that we struggle with, and I know Laura, you have some information on it.
Yeah, I thought it was worthwhile to just, for me to review with everybody. There's an organization called Let New York Work. They are from local governments and school districts. And they're working to urge state lawmakers to enact a package of mandate relief measures. This is going all the way back to 2011 when the tax cap was first instituted. That state lawmakers have pledged to provide mandate relief to schools and local governments, but so far it hasn't happened. So there's 6 items in the coalition's mandate relief package, and not all of these are applicable to village governments. Some are more applicable to schools, but I think it's worthwhile to consider all of them. I think it gives a better context to the situation. So the first one was freezing step increases when contracts expire. Controlling construction costs. This has to do with the Wick's law threshold, increasing that. Providing portable pension benefits, and I'll expand on that, to help control the volatility of pension contributions made by local governments. New York should offer public employees at the state and local level a defined contribution pension option. Then there's an issue about compulsory arbitration and how that could impact a small municipality, but I won't get into the details on that because it's quite lengthy. And then finally, capping health insurance costs. State lawmakers should limit the employer contribution to health insurance for employees of schools and local governments to no more than 85% of a health care premium for individuals or 75% for families or retirees. Moreover, if the employer contribution rates in state contracts decrease, then local contracts should follow the same reduction in the next negotiation cycle. And actually, there is one more recommendation, which is prohibiting new unfunded mandates. So just to see that we're not the only ones that are struggling with these issues. And that's it.
You come to the board. Public?
Good evening, everybody. John Bogack, 8 Knoxon Street. I just wanted to clarify. So this year, the one coming up, the cap is not 2%, but around 1.5.
No, last year was 1.5. That's what we had to work with last year.
What?
We don't know what it's going to be. We haven't gotten from the state tells us. They advise those municipalities what will be. So we could be 2%, we could be 1.6, 1.7, or 2.2, depending on what they tell us.
I saw an article that I should read too. That's about 1.56, I think.
Okay, so that's
Close to
that's what.
somewhere close
So
to
you're
that.
looking at about $110,000 probably.
And my second question is a clarification about these pension costs. Now I thought that they were outside of the cap. Pension
No.
costs.
No, they're not.
They're not. None of it?
None of it. Not even at the first 2 years. There was a piece of it, None of it's outside the course. So since 2004, we needed to make up, at this point, $800,000 in the budget. That's what the struggle's at. Without, even if they had stayed at a steady rate of increase, and obviously we all know what happened in 2008, and that's where everybody got hurt, we would have been in pretty good shape right now. But, and we're actually in pretty good shape, but simply just out of course.
Okay. All right, it's a little inconsistent from what I understand, but I'll look further
Yeah,
into what I've been
take a
told.
look at it.
Right.
Yeah, we absolutely, we have, no option with that. I guess the part of it, and I've said this before, is that really upsets me about the pension costs is that in 2000, Governor Patchogue and Governor Controller McCall presented and it was passed that Tier 4, New York State has multiple tiers, that Tier 4, after 10 years, that had always been contributory of 3%, that after 10 years, you would no longer have to pay the 3%. So I sit on the executive board of the New York Conference of Mayors, and we had a meeting with members of the governor's staff about that. My question was, if you could legislatively change it in 2004, why can't you legislatively change it back to the 3%? And they made, their argument was, is that the New York State Constitution doesn't allow you to make changes, it's unconstitutional to change a benefit. My argument was, number one, it's not a benefit, it's inexpensive. You're not getting, you don't get the benefit until you retire. And that, why don't they bring it to the court where the judge decide whether it's so? And that was like, no. Now, and my sense was, is you raise it back a percent a year. You don't go back and people take 3%. Percent a year. Maybe that takes that $850,000 we'd be paying this year, and makes it $650,000 or $700,000. But all they do is talk about the fact that they fixed the pension system by having Tier 6 now. I think it's Tier 6. I think it's Tier 6 now. But the truth of the matter is, 80% of the people, 90% of the people that are in the system now are in Tier 4. And probably 50 to 60% of them have more than 10 years in because government hasn't been hiring. We've been either laying off people or taking people leaving for retirement. So you're not replacing it with the Tier 6 contribution. So it'll be multiple years. So that's just the frustration that I have, is that there's no regard for that issue.
Can I ask you, so the state's not going to change, but can you or the village ask during the union contract negotiations for contributions?
No, you can't. That's illegal also.
That's illegal as well?
Yeah.
All right, 1, 2, 3.
And they kind of do this too.
And my last question is this: I understand it's an insurance policy, so this sounds like what is going to be passed. But if we keep to the cap, does that mean everyone gets a rebate check this time around?
I don't know. I really don't know. I wish I'd give you that answer. I would find out.
And where is the treasurer on meeting? Thank you very much.
You know what he is? He's in Florida, looking at the weather, saying, "Thank God I'm here and snowing there." Thank you. Any other comment, please?
Brian, did the teachers, the school pensions just get a bunch of money back?
Well, the comptroller adjusted that, was reported in the news, they adjusted it by $100 million, all of the pension costs, because they had a higher return in their rate, so there was an adjustment on what their return was. So that hasn't resulted in us yet. That's why we're in the same realm of our potential rebate checks being tied to the school district and other municipalities as they go through. They haven't made that similar adjustment for villages.
So are the schools actually going to get a check?
No, they're gonna get a reduced budget calculation of what their contribution's gonna be.
Right, for this year?
Correct.
For next fiscal year. So maybe that'll happen to us too. Maybe there'll be a rebate. Considering the incredibly great interest rates that people are getting these days, I don't think we're getting anything back.
Any other comment? Motion to accept is presented. Motion.
Second.
That's it. Okay.
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing be held on Monday, December 8, 2014, 6 p.m., 14 Baker Street, Patchogue, New York, by the Incorporated Village Board of the Incorporated Village of Patchogue, to To consider a request for the renewal of a special permit for property located at 257 Waverly Avenue, United Storage, now known as Cube Smart. At said public hearing, any person interested will be given the opportunity to be heard.
Okay, so Deputy Mayor Krieger.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is very familiar to me because it's in my backyard.
Yes, we know.
And I must say that since the last time we met for public hearing, that things have run pretty well over there, and it's cleaned up. There's no more homeless people roaming around. They don't have any reports from the neighbors that there's any problems. So I think they're doing a good job over there, and maybe we should move this to a 3-year permit if we could, just so we don't have to do this every year.
Is anyone here for the applicant?
I believe Jody's here. Yeah, Jody's.
I do appreciate you guys changing. I am determined to keep them in. I've evicted 5 people. I've been here a year. I've been with the company 4 years, that location a year, and they all know I don't have money.
Jody, just state your name for the record.
Jody Comanzo, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, there's also a line in the original special permit that was issued a year ago. This is a 1-year renewal.
Right.
The deputy mayor is proposing doing it on a 3-year renewal cycle, so we wouldn't see you again for 3 years. There's one,
We'll miss you.
there's one line that has, at the last line, access to the premises shall only be during normal business hours, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Correct.
And then with the exception of one customer which shall not be renewed. Was that situation resolved?
He's out, yes, he's no
Okay.
longer with us.
So the 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. would work fine.
Absolutely.
Okay. Just want to make that modification to the special permit.
No, that's not, well, no, she evicted me. With the change in ownership, with the 3-year ride with that, or would it have to be renewed with a change in ownership?
Just a change.
We have the permit provides that this special permit terminates upon the transfer of ownership of the property. We should really add absent application to the board.
And yes, since they've taken it over, it's changed dramatically. It's much better. Very well done.
That's all, Jody.
Can I get my cable turned back on?
Sorry.
Any comments by the board? Any concerns by the public? Motion?
Motion.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
See you in 3 years.
Thank you.
Have a great holiday.
You too.
Okay. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing be held on Monday, December 8th, in this building, 14 Baker Street, Patchogue, New York, by the Village Board of the Incorporated Village of Patchogue to amend sections 210-16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21 of Chapter 210 of Village Code to increase the minimum height above base flood elevation to 4 feet for construction in areas of special flood hazard or coastal high hazard areas. Copy of which proposal is on file at the office of the village clerk. At said public hearing, any person interested will be given the opportunity to be heard.
City Building Inspector, Peter Sarich, and put Mr. Egan on stage.
Go first.
Yes, well, first I'd like to thank Attorney Egan and his office for doing a really nice job with putting this together. As always, they're extremely professional, and I appreciate it. Our office definitely appreciates it. Now, this isn't the most sexiest of topics, but in my world, it is something that I deal with every single day. Since Sandy, we have had quite a number of homeowners contact this office and go through New York Rising to seek to raise their houses so that they won't sustain the damage that they had received through Sandy and Irene. And our code currently says that if you raise your house, you have to raise it to what's called base flood elevation, which is an imaginary number that that FEMA has developed based upon statistical data as to how high the floods will come in a 100-year storm event. So what it says is that you have to raise it 2 feet above that level. Now with Sandy, and I think with Irene, but not so much, with Sandy definitely, we had people who had their houses at that level that were getting water, getting damage in their homes. Clearly, this was something that in our village, it wasn't high enough to protect the homeowners from Sandy and also from future events. So what we've done since Sandy, after consulting with FEMA, is we've made it as our policy to require that anybody who raises their home has to raise it to that base flood elevation, but not 2 feet, but 2 additional feet in order to protect the house and the homeowner from the worst of a 100-year storm. New York Rising has been paying for people to raise their homes, but they will only pay up to the amount that is in our code, which is 2 feet above base flood elevation. That leaves the homeowners at having to pick up a tab of anywhere between $2,000 and $4,000 and $5,000 or more in order to raise their home to that 4 feet and to have that peace of mind that the house is where it should be. So what I'm doing is I'm asking the board to change that base flood elevation. It's called freeboard, that space between the base flood elevation and the lowest floor, first floor, from 2 feet to 4 feet, in order to correct that, in order to also to make certain that our residents can have that addition paid for by New York Rising. They have no problem paying for it. It's just that it has to be in our code. So that was the crux of it.
Chief Sarich, this also, we've had meetings with FEMA, Chief Building Inspector and I, and one of the elements also to having a BFE +4 could be down the road, one, not only the resiliency of the town and resisting higher floods potentially, insulates homeowners from later changes in BFE requirements that could go from 2 to 4, and now their houses, after having been going through all of the hassle and expense of having their houses raised to 2 feet, are now suddenly subject to the requirement of having it raised 2 more feet by the, or another foot by FEMA. And lastly, also has a benefit of potentially helping us with the flood insurance program.
The village of Patchogue, and you're absolutely right. One of the recurring questions that I get from homeowners is, well, who's to say that FEMA's not going to change the maps in 5 years? And if I raise it this high, they'll all of a sudden tell me that I'm not high enough, and then my insurance rates go through the roof. Which many people have seen their insurance rates quadruple in the last 2 years. So the base flood elevation of +4 will protect them against any of those future increases and changes in those maps. It also has a side benefit of where if your house is at or below base flood elevation down in the flood zone, you can expect to pay upward of $4,000 a year in flood insurance. By raising it to base flood elevation 4, those rates will go down to $400 a year. So that's quite a substantial savings on the homeowner's part. Plus, as Brian had said, the village as a whole is rated from time to time by FEMA as to how well we enforce the FEMA flood regulations. So by adopting this higher base flood elevation, that goes a long way in creating a better rating for the village, and as such, a lower insurance premium for all the homeowners in the village.
I think something you brought up, Mr. Bojack, at one time, I think.
I did.
Yeah.
Peter, question. The houses along the bayfront that have been raised, are they up for?
They're up 4. The
They look great.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the policy has been also that some people come in and they say, well, I'd like to be able to put my car underneath. And if that is the case, if they want to do that, then what we do is we send them to the planning board. Other than that, and that was an agreement that the planning board and the building department had made right after Sandy in order to make sure that these requests were processed, without delay. So, but the ones that you see that don't have parking under that are at base flood elevation +4, which would be 9 feet above sea level. That's not 9 feet above the ground that you're standing on, because Shorefront Park is at about 1.5 feet above sea level. But so it's about about 6 feet or so. Some of those houses on Smith Street, yeah. So it works.
Comments, questions?
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Sure.
Motion to accept is presented.
Motion. Second.
Aye.
The ID report? Mr. Smith is not here. Mr. Smith is at,
Mayor, are you doing the
Washington.
oh yeah. Request approval of Debbie Newham and Nancy Howard to attend the annual New York State Towns and Villages Conference for court clerks in New York City from February 15th to the 18th, and of course, not to exceed $1,000 each. Motion?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Dennis Smith is at downtown, he's on some kind of downtown committee, he's in a meeting for that this evening. Just before I bring up David Kennedy, just want to give people an update on an incident that they may have heard about the other night. And at the end of Jennings Street, Jennings Avenue and Lake Street, in the fire department parking lot, where a police officer was, I want to say assaulted. I think that's what's charged. Walking through the parking lot, there's a New York City police officer who was coming to his fiancee's house. It was on Jennings Avenue. Was walking through the police to the parking lot. He was approached. Somebody tried to steal his backpack. There was a confrontation. And an altercation, was it a confrontation? An altercation is the person was going after the backpack, tried to grab his revolver, hit him a couple of times with it. They continued to fight. Then it was a sergeant from the Ocean Beach Police Department, having been in the parking lot, came in and helped support him. But at some point, the gun appeared hurt. It discharged twice, not hitting anybody, or I don't think anything was damaged. But the person was then held, and a couple members of the fire department came out and helped support also. They were under control. The suspect, the civilian suspect is listed here, came from Brentwood. The other part of it that's interesting is that I was told that it's not that he was doing it here, but there were members of the sixth precinct came down because there's a feeling that this person had also been up in Center Reach and Sullivan in the same thing. He was charged with assault and robbery. So, the police officer got banged up a little bit on the men, and the gentleman, kind of using loosely, Waverly is in jail. Just, and that is from the police report that they have. So it's just, because I know there are a lot of rumors about what happened, didn't happen. But there's a fire department and another person who went with it, and police officers in the hospital for the stand overnight. But there's nobody in.
Still in the hospital.
Is he still in the hospital?
Still in the hospital.
So that's what that's it. Mr. Kennedy.
Good evening, everybody. Also, just want to report our holiday promotions are certainly now in full swing. We had our Small Business Saturday. It was a great day for a lot of our businesses. This Saturday we celebrate our discount card, promoting our discount card day. And even despite the really bad weather this Saturday, we did have about 30 or 40 residents or people come in to sign up for discount cards. So that was a nice showing considering the weather. So we continue with our promotions. The next big event in that vein is this Saturday, December the 13th. We're working with Oakdale, Cape Port, Blue Point, Sayville, and Bellport to provide trolley service between those communities between 11 and 6. There'll be some great sales, deals, some music on the street, and all that kind of activity. There'll be some free gift bags given to everybody who rides a trolley with a lot of more coupons, discounts, giveaways. So that should be a great deal, great afternoon. Chamber will be doing free gift wrapping this time at the Brick House. They've opened up their front of their place for us to have a little booth to do free gift wrapping for anybody who wants to come down. And I want to thank Trustee Hilton for volunteering to be one of our gift wrappers for this weekend. We didn't have anybody come by to get a gift wrap, but Bill was there ready to do it.
I was there.
I appreciate that very much.
Tape and scissors with me.
And just a couple other things that are coming up as well. This tomorrow night, actually, at 89 North, between 6 to 11, is LUDA, Latinos Unidos de America, a local organization that works with the Latino community, is holding what they call a holiday carnival at 89 North. It is open to everybody. There'll be some booths. Santa will be there. They'll have some food available as well. So we invite everybody to come down to the Chamber's helping to promote that. Our holiday party, Christmas holiday, the Chamber's holiday party is this Thursday. Again, we are traveling to a few different locations. $55 a person. It'll get you a cocktail hour. Let's begin at Hoptron. We'll move to that meatball place for our appetizer course. A Hoshi for our dinner course, and our dessert will be over at Queen City. So, of course, we welcome our elected officials in the village to please join us if at all possible. And I forgot to mention our last holiday promotion date is Thursday, December 18th. Is our late night shopping day. Our stores will stay open later. Most of them will be open till 8 or 9 o'clock that evening, so everybody can get their late night shopping done. And then the last, pre-Christmas event that we want to even though it's not a Christmas event, it's a holiday event, is the menorah lighting, which will be taking place on Sunday, the 21st of December at 5 o'clock. Hanukkah starts on the 17th, but I guess that will be on the 4th night of Hanukkah, is when we'll be celebrating the little ceremony by Rabbi Joel Levinson from Temple Bethel.
At Temple Bethel?
It's at Capital One. The Capital One Plaza. The menorah's already there and ready to go. All right, and then I guess, obviously, we've been talking a lot about an activity called Midnight on Main Street. Since our last meeting, we've been in the discussion and negotiations with the village. There looks to be a potential, some major changes to how the event is run, and I'll certainly allow the mayor to speak for the village's behalf on that, but,
Basically, what the concern is right now, and hopefully I'll be able to meet with the inspector first thing tomorrow morning at Cole's office. Busy guy. And, they're looking, the issue really becomes manpower. The fire department has concerns about the number of people that they can get, as did public safety. And the police department, in their defense of the whole thing is that it is the night that they have the most amount of men out. And on either on vacation or personal time, and one of the busier nights they have. And a lot of what they do is a few week stops and things like that. So their ability to give us the manpower that we may need to protect the residents and protect everybody. The police, many times, things don't happen because of their presence. Not because anything, it's without their presence. And we've been very fortunate because David and Jerry and I work very closely with PSA, the security company, but even with them, their strength comes from the police being there also to give them support. I know, David, that there's been discussions about doing it early in the evening.
yes, I mean, I guess at the last meeting, where we did leave off, is there was consideration of maybe moving the event to the Briarcliff parking lot between Briarcliff and the YMCA and hold it earlier in the day. My last conversation with you is that the inspector was working on maybe getting some manpower between 5 and 8. Just an update, Dave Knapp, in consideration of his tenants, the earliest he's gonna let us get availability in that park lot at 7 o'clock for Finest Fitness. So that would be our window if we did do it there. And the things now, so really 8 to 9 would be the most realistic to do it if we were going to do it that way. And just knowing that information, we did also reach out to Capital One Plaza. They are making that space available to us anytime after 3 o'clock. They'd be more than happy to host the event if that logistically would become a better a place as well.
Well, from what, and I didn't speak to the inspector, but I spoke to Sergeant Heller, who then contacted the inspector on Thursday. And the inspector feels that works because then he doesn't get into overtime with having to keep guys over. So if you did something at 8 o'clock, thereabouts, it probably would work very well. And I'm pretty sure that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
That can very easily happen. I wanted to be talking one more time about the evening thing to see if there was any way that could work, just because I think I owe it to you for the work you guys have done.
I appreciate that.
But my sense is it's going to end up either Capital One, so let's see what the replace, because you got to go out and roll it like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, I just, and again, I also want to, as for full disclosure and everything, I happened to run into Legislator Clarko at the 5K Santa Trot yesterday, which was a wonderful event, and everybody deserves kudos for that. He approached me and asked me, what was going on with it. I did explain where we were at and where things might change. Believe it or not, he was actually very concerned. He was really looking forward to what was going to happen on Main Street. I guess he was even making plans to participate in it.
That's what bothers me about it.
Yes, I mean a lot of people are. So I mean, he's on. I explained what I know from what you explained and what the police have told us and where we're at. I guess he wants to use his position as the county legislator to make some contacts on our behalf as well. Which I said, sure, of course, if he feels he can play a role. He might even join us tomorrow at the meeting. I did invite him if he wanted to come to be part of that discussion. Tomorrow night is when hopefully we're going to be gathering everybody, and we should know by 8 o'clock tomorrow night at the latest exactly what we're doing and how this is all going to do. Yeah, exactly. So we appreciate everybody's and the community's patience. We just ask everybody to stay tuned, and we'll certainly do everything we can to get the word out. Through the media and through social media, exactly what's happened, if any major changes happens at that point. I can announce though, officially today we became fully funded. We did raise the goal and the money, and I thank everybody. I believe most, if not all, of the village board members have contributed in some way, and I really appreciate it. I think it was Mr. Ferb himself that actually put us over the top without going into numbers. It was he was the donation that actually got us to pierce the cap. So we thank you for that, and I thank everybody for the contributions on that.
Pierce the cap, just call me cap.
Yeah, that's right. You pierced the cap. Look at you. That's the theme of the meeting today. So yeah, that's really where it stands in that. I mean, wish I could be more concrete for public purposes of where we stand, and again, I just appreciate we're all working together and trying to make this event happen. You know, our biggest concern, we actually did, the ball's pretty much all constructed, and Sinorama, out of generosity of heart, did donate all their time and effort, but they just asked us to pay for the materials. And it is really looks nice, and we saw some pictures of it the other day, and it is a $4,000 investment just on the time and material for it. So that ball basically exists, and that bill will have to be paid one way or the other, so it certainly is my goal to make sure we put some use into that ball, since it's already created, and you know, we'll go from there and see what comes together for tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dave.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have one thing tonight. I'm just going to report that for the month of November, on-street parking meters, we made $13,400, and the railroad parking meters, we made $3,778. So still proving to be a success.
And that takes, we can take November, you have Veterans Day,
Yeah.
you have no holidays.
Holidays. Tells you two things, the village is hopping,
Yep.
a lot of people coming in, and the meter program is a success. And we're still working on the completion of the parking lot meters going in, working with Trustee Keyes on the signs, and working with Evo, Parkline, not Parkline, those guys to get these meters programmed. A lot more difficult than I thought.
And one thing to remind people too is once the meters go into the back lots, the residents need to come in and get their stickers.
Yes.
Which I was going to say that they are available now, so you can come in with your registration and fill out an application, and you get your sticker, and you'll be good to go.
And once we get an actual launch date, a letter will go out to all village residents, and then I'll give you a copy, David, that'll go to the businesses. And,
You're gonna put a machine underneath my awning, so I don't get wet?
don't worry, Mark. We're gonna put one right in your store.
I bet you they get you an umbrella for Christmas, man.
Valet for you.
Still
I
have
have my
it.
customers, so I well.
Trustee Keyes.
Mr. Mayor, fellow board members, ladies and gentlemen, so I don't forget, have a happy holiday season, everyone. It's kicked off and ready for shopping in cold weather, neither of which I like. Really great parade again, another good year, another good holiday parade.
Thank you.
Great job, everyone went well.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, my granddaughter made it to the end, but my grandson didn't make it to the good day. I also want to acknowledge Don Wachsmuth, who got a nice,
Yes.
well-deserved write up in Long Island Advance this Thursday. The ultimate volunteer, great guy to have in a village. Hope we stick around here a long time. Don, we got a lot more work for you to do. Just a couple of things on the wish list, Mr. Mayor. I'm requesting approval to hire RJ Painting to prep, prime, and finish coat, various exteriors. In your package, you have their list. We're just looking through at items 2 through 6. At a cost not to exceed $27,000. What's the motion?
Just, why don't you read out some of what's in the news, what people understand, please?
But
The one most obvious is the two poles.
by Burlington, which actually is what kind of triggered this. Having stand in front of Burlington where they didn't look at that poles and then and we have banners hanging over.
We have the banners on it.
It was really a pretty sorry shape, and that's kind of what made us start to get into this kind of thing. We figured, well, as long as we're going to hire somebody to do it, we might as well try to get as much done as we can with what, the kind of work this guy does. So you'll see the rails on the north and south side of Main Street where the Patchogue River flow under the road, north side and south side. The two utility poles at the intersection of West Avenue and East Main Street. The pole that I mentioned by Burlington, two rusted utility poles on either side of Oak Street. A lot of these things, the prep work itself is pretty expensive, which is why it pays for us to really go outside and do it. And by the fire department, there's a utility pole that also needs to be done. So that's a cost of $27,000. You see item number 1, and I was kind of going back and forth about asking for approval for this one. I personally think we should hold off because these are the guardrails by by Westlake.
Yeah.
So when we first came into the village and, obviously you wanted to be dressed up in pretty bad, just $21,000 price tag to do this just seemed a little steep to me, and I think that, we're gonna try to do that in-house. I think that's the best way to go. So I'm just asking for approval for items 2 through 6, on that sheet. Of course, not to exceed 27 grand, that's a motion.
Second.
Okay.
Aye.
When will they do that, Joe?
I'm sorry, well, it's kind of, the weather will hold up a little bit, but I have a feeling we're not gonna see it now for. It looked pretty promising there for a while, but it's 8 days and I know they're kind of optimistic. I'm requesting approval to advertise for independent contractors for snow and ice removal. This is something we do every year, the guys do the parking lots and stuff like that. That's a motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
And also, while we're at it, because I don't remember doing it yet this year, but I've been told we did, we're $15 an hour snow shovel guys that we generally call out in the really extreme snowstorms, stuff that we can't keep up and get some extra arms and bodies in through our sidewalk. We've done this for several years now as well. But like I said, I just don't remember getting approval for that yet this season, so I want to make sure that we do. So that's a motion.
Second.
Second.
Okay.
Aye.
Yeah, we did do that.
Yeah, we've done it about the last 3 or 4 years at least, since I've been on board actually. Requesting approval to pay H2M $86,000 for engineering services related to the elimination of the South Ocean Avenue pump station. Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Just so you know, that $86,000 comes out of sewer fees, it does not come out of the general fund, the general tax fund. It's paid for by the sewer district.
And Mr. Mayor, for the first time in my 5 years on the board, I have no bike lockers to offer anybody.
But the skid steer.
What are they all being used?
I missed the skid steer load, I'm sorry.
Hey, go after it.
I scribbled notes on my sheet here and I didn't get it. I'm requesting approval to rebid the rental of the skid steer loader.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Happy holidays, everybody.
Trustee Felice.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen. First, I just want to thank the building department and Councilor Egan and his office for the great job that they did on working on amending that resolution. It's really an important thing for our residents who, suffered through such as Sandy and Irene. And not only that, but it helps them in their insurance fees and all like that. So I think it's really a great thing. And thank you, Brian. You really stepped up on that. Thank you. And other than that, I just have the building report for November. And it goes as follows. Building and housing summonses issued for the period of November were 20. Building permits issued were 12. Superstorm Sandy permits issued 1. Plumbing permits issued 6. Demolition permits 1. Rental permits issued 17. Notices of violation 23. Number of complaints received 27. There were no illegal apartments or dwellings found. Fees collected in that month were ABR applications, ARB, excuse me, 375. Building permits, 3,500. Zoning certificates, $150. Fire alarm, $175. Fire inspection, $850. Planning board applications, $400. Plumbing permits, $1,345. Rental permits, $6,275. Sign permits, $18. And zoning application, $1,750, bringing the total to $14,838 for the month. And that's all I have. And I hope everybody has a happy and safe holiday. And we'll see you in 2015. Maybe, and most of you before then. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, fellow trustees, residents, and guests. I have a couple of quick things. Dennis is not here. Had he been here, I'm sure he would have reported on the status of the surveillance cameras. A PTZ camera, a camera that has a life and moves around, is going to go on the pole on the southeast corner of Main and South Ocean. TriTech is giving us their connection. We're going to take their old camera off and put our fancy new one on. A second camera is going to go on the marquee at the theater, and it's going to look up and down the street. A third camera is going to go in the parking lot in back of the theater, and we're looking for a location for the fourth one, which is a little challenging. But the bid's been working on this for about 2 years. It's finally happening. And pretty soon, I'm hoping that the Chamber of Commerce will take the camera from that's at South Ocean in Maine, and just let us stream to the internet as an advertisement for the village of Patchogue. So,
If you go on anytime you want.
yep. The second thing I just wanted to report on and compliment the Garden Club. You might have been doing this, Lori, but yesterday there was a church and synagogue tour, 4 churches and the synagogue. There were about 60 people. It was supposed to be 2 hours. It was 3.5 hours. It was. I'd never been in St. Paul's before. That's the church down at the end of Terry Street. It's all wood. I mean, it's just an amazing building. But it was a great tour. The religious leaders, I'm not sure what to call them, priests, whatever. They were so much fun. They were absolutely entertaining, and it was a great service to the community. By the way, it was free. You were supposed to bring some food, but it was a really good thing that the Gardens Club put on. So, thanks. That's all I have.
Well, Tom really stole thunder. So I will concur, the Garden Club did an excellent job. I thought it was really a great idea to tour those buildings and learn a little bit about them, because some of which I have been in and some I haven't, but really didn't know the history. It's amazing how many beautiful stained glass windows we have. And what I found fascinating was the Lutheran church. I had never been inside, and I didn't know that it had been a historical building that burned. Was rebuilt, but the windows are all original, and they were able to have them restored by the company that originally made them, is still in business. And they actually do some ongoing maintenance. They have to be oiled. I never heard of that before. So even though the church was completely rebuilt, they have all the original windows. So,
bunch of Tiffany windows.
Yes, Tiffany windows in the 2 big, the Methodist
The
and the
Methodist
Congregationals has a couple that are Tiffany. The small ones up there. So it was a great tour. I hope that we do it again. The trolley was fantastic.
Trolley, sure.
They had the trolley go from stop to stop. So for people who didn't want to take the walk in the wind, it's a trolley ride.
45 people. The trolley holds 45 people. Really,
Yeah, it was fun.
really a great addition.
The only other thing I have to mention is that the Art Space artists have their annual gift show. The hours vary, so if you see their sandwich board out front of the building that says the gallery's open, most likely on the weekends, some of the artists have their work up. I went the other day, I bought a couple of cute little cards and some ceramics, so if you're in the market for things like that, stop in and support your local artists. And I have nothing else this evening.
They showed the Toy Trot yesterday also.
Oh, yeah. That was,
It's been part of 1,000 people.
yeah, just under 1,000. It's huge. And they would have broken records. Everybody loves that, of course. They just love it.
Palmaghetti?
It was a
kid from Patchogue, Anthony Palmaghetti.
from the Y. From the Y, right?
No,
No, he's the Olympian.
he did the Olympics twice.
Oh, really? Yeah.
He ran it in 1436.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. That's right.
Yeah, it said that he would have broken 14, it wasn't for the wind on that.
With a headwind, yeah,
That's insane.
on the last leg. I said it was a real killer. But yeah, that went very well, and thanks to code enforcement, and they combined with the highway department, the parks department, and it was a great joint effort. The Quanians were their usual Quanians, and it was a good job. So, and also I would like to thank all the volunteers who helped us out with the Christmas parade. Don, that was not listed in the article, your fire department
And St. Patty's Day.
gig, St. Patty's Day, and the Liz Kelly 5K. We can just go on and on. I know.
We ran out of room.
Ran out of ink.
But I thank you and your volunteers. I thank Luann and Maria and the highway department, and once again the constables did just a fabulous job, code enforcement. And also, Mr. Mayor, concerning the Christmas parade, there was one downside, bless you, to that, in that we had, and this is a problem we've had the last couple of years, is we had four Santa Claus in full uniform. And,
But we only had really one real Santa Claus.
well, of course. And it's very, to me, it's very disturbing that that I have to, at some point, we're gonna have to forcibly remove these gentlemen before, it's hard to tell, from the parade, because it takes away from the kids. There was one Santa Claus that led off the parade, there was another one in the middle of the parade, one fire department had one, and so I just, if you're involved in the parade next year, please, just, Santa Claus is Santa Claus. And you never know what's gonna happen, you know, you might get pissed off. That's not gonna happen on my watch. Yeah, right. Other than that, the parade was fantastic, it's just.
And we had two proposals, which we haven't had.
And two proposals, wedding, were they both accepted?
They both were accepted.
Okay,
One I knew about, one I didn't, so it was quite exciting.
great, so it went well. So many smiling faces, everybody was happy, and the crowd this year was just, yeah, so, yeah.
Big crowd.
Yeah, it was huge, and well behaved. So I want to thank everybody for that. And I do have one more item.
Billy, any idea why the crowd was so big? That's the biggest crowd that I've ever walked through in all the parades I've
Well, I'm gonna have to say it's the popularity of Patchogue. I mean, we had friends that 5 years ago you couldn't, you know, obviously. Now they're calling us up and saying, "Oh my God, great, yeah, let's go."
Yeah.
It was 39 degrees.
Yeah, but there was no wind.
There was no wind.
Yeah, that makes such a difference.
I think also, you know, you have a lot of really great groups there, so you have grandparents coming to see kids
Yeah.
dancing and all that kind of stuff.
No, yeah, with every marcher, with every float, there's
Yeah.
20, 30 parents and grandparents, and it's great.
And the effort that they put in though is extraordinary.
Yeah.
And having a bird's eye view, but it's just,
How much did you make on, you know, the commercial?
$1,200.
What we do is, when you see a radio station, or even the restaurants that we're in, they all paid to come in. And we do that, it's really a matter of if you can advertise. You can't get advertised in front of 6,000 or 7,000 people.
It's pretty good, pretty good.
Yeah. Plus that helps, they have to cover the cost for the additional code guys that are on.
Yeah.
So it really works.
No, it is, we charge $150 for an entry, and if they are a member of the chamber, it's $75. So it's also a great incentive to join the chamber. And, so yeah, about $1,200. So, Mr. Mayor and fellow trustees, this was not in the packet, but I would like to nail down the date. We have an application from the new interdisciplinary school I'll just read it. I'm writing this letter to request the usage of one of the Patchogue parks on Sunday, April 12th, rain date Saturday, April 18th, to host a wellness expo, family fun day sponsored by the new interdisciplinary school, non-profit school affiliated with the IGHL. We're in the preliminary stages of planning this event. We hope to have face painters, balloon twisters, and various children's activities. So I would like to, even though you guys, girls, are not familiar with the event, but I think that we should, for them, approve or not approve the date, and not the event itself. Yeah, just a lot. Yes.
The new interdisciplinary school is in the Ant Bank on Route 101, and it's a school, preschool for the handicapped. So on the board for that part of 20 years.
Yeah.
And they sit on the IGHL board also now. So really, it's a wonderful, wonderful place, and it's pretty neat.
Yeah, this is exactly what we are looking for the future of Shorefront Park.
Just great programs.
Right. So, Mr. Mayor, I'm making a motion
to, who signed it just out of curiosity? Who signed it?
It's Susan Cowell.
What were the dates going?
Right, Saturday, Sunday, April 12th. Do you have anything on that? So I don't have anything.
For those dates?
Yeah.
No,
Not yet.
no.
So to allow the interdisciplinary school to have their Wellness Expo Family Fun Day on Sunday, April 12th. The rain date Saturday, April 18th, with the actual event to be approved at a later date.
Motion to accept, the motion to reserve the dates pending further approval by the recreation department.
Right.
Second.
Aye.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, it is. It's funny, it comes at the same time that we're doing park usage.
Yeah.
And it's perfect. That's all I have for tonight.
Any other comments, President?
Wait, did you want to mention the board Patchogue got the other night at the school dinner?
Yes, please do.
Suffolk County village officials had their yearly meeting, Christmas party. They had it down in Borders on the Bay, and Suffolk County Planning Board, chaired by David Colon, what the Suffolk County Planning Board does is anything that we do of a major new village, beach, art space, has to go before Suffolk County Planning. And their approval is necessary, their review is necessary for our approval. And we received from them the Innovation Award, is that what it was called?
First.
The first annual innovation, just based upon some of the things we've done in the village. You know, it's nice to see that somebody on the outside kind of sees what happens, the way we're going, the work that this board has done and prior boards have done over the last 10 years to move us to the place that we are. The place that we have to be concerned about crowds on New Year's Eve, where if you go back 10 years, you'd be afraid to stand on the corner because you know who's going to show up. Or if anybody's going to show up, to a point now in life where we're so concerned about the numbers that may show up. So it's really come full circle. So really, it was nice, and it's by your peers that do it. And when your peers see what you do, and the other villages and the planning, it really was a nice award to receive.
And the plaque is hanging in the hallway by the historical case, despite the fact that the mayor didn't want me to do it. I did it anyway.
I'm not big into it. We do what we do because this is what we do. Nobody has to tell us that we've done a good job. We just kind of look around. Hopefully you see people that are happy to do that. Public to be heard. Huh?
Don Wachsmuth, 60 Common Street. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Linda, thank you for the opportunity and honor. We got a lot of comments from people.
As you should.
I was down at Shorefront Park this morning, using the exercise equipment, just a little bit. I just had to test each one. The Tai Chi, I have no idea what that is, but it's very nice, very nice. It's finally uncovered and there to be used.
You know, broke one.
It's not the season to go down there and do it.
I know that. I did it yesterday.
Interesting, very nice. I enjoyed it. And Joe, your bike lockers are gone. But there's
I know it's a big disappointment to the.
No, but there's still a sign on the platform.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think that sign influenced anybody much.
No, it didn't make one.
So your bike lock is gone?
You just noticed the sign, you didn't notice it when the lockers were there, you noticed it when the lockers were there?
The sign does.
Did the railroad?
Just an
No, we
idea.
put it. It's in the railroad station.
Yeah, but the lock is, railroad.
No, we don't.
No, the lockers were. Yeah, I lived the usefulness and was starting to attract some, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're getting busted up.
It's a good alternative to the Valerie place.
That was my summer home.
A little suggestion about the traffic light on Four Corners. Now, there's a left turn if you're going west. there's a left turn arrow to go south. And most left turn arrows, if there's nobody waiting to make the turn, the opposing traffic is free to go. So you sit there, no one wanting to turn, you still have to go if you're heading east, or you still have to wait if you're heading east. Just, I don't know if it's a big deal to set that up, but it might ease flow a little bit.
Well, what it does is it eases the westbound flow because you get that traffic out of there.
No, it's not.
But it's eastbound is stopped because if no one is making the left turn to go south, when they could go ahead.
Well, one of the things I asked Joe to do today was, we really have to take a look at you, on the road itself. There are no arrows, you know, the double line, we really have to kind of get that all straightened out.
Yeah, it's a little haphazard when you approach it.
I'm not following that. What's the solution? Going westbound, approaching the four corners, going westbound, you have a left turn lane going down South Ocean Avenue with a left turn light.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, if there's nobody waiting to make that left turn,
Right.
the eastbound traffic
Still wait for that green to go.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's time, it's a time.
Well, usually there's a sensor in the road
Yeah.
that detects that a car is there, and then it
Trigger the green arrow.
trigger the arrow.
Right.
The sensor might be too wide as well.
No, that one area is just, it's going,
Yeah.
it could be 2 o'clock in the morning and nobody there.
Well,
It's gonna do the same thing. Or the other is just, you get an hour to go. So when they're going, when they're making a left, the left going south, those going eastbound make a left going north,
yeah.
and clean out that intersection.
That's narrow.
Yeah.
Okay, happy holidays.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Ed.
John.
Anyone else? Mr. Kemp?
Good to see you, Mr. Kemp.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and trustees. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to comment about the highway department and an incident I observed very recently. Across the street from my house, there was 2 dump trucks, a vacuum machine to pick up leaves, and 4 laborers with rakes. They were there for 20 minutes in front of one house. After 20 minutes, they left, and about 20 minutes later, they came back and continued at the same house to suck up leaves. And when you have 4 men on the payroll to be in front of one house,
What day was this on?
excuse me,
What date is, what was the date?
this was after Thanksgiving.
The other date?
No.
Oh, okay.
But it just seems that it's a very inefficient machinery you have that you need to look at it. The machine was red colored, and I don't know if it was underpowered or what, but to have 4 men, 2 dump trucks, 20 minutes in front of one house, that's a lot of time, and time is money. When you had the payloader just scooping it up, they would have been gone in 2 minutes. But to have 4 laborers,
Are they
2 dump trucks.
Are they cleaning drains or picking up leaves?
Just leaves.
What exactly were they doing?
There was a machine with like a vacuum hose, and 4 guys were raking leaves towards this machine that couldn't keep up with them. So you either got some antique machinery, but
Johnny, know which one that is? That's the one they use in the recreation department?
Yeah,
it's a red colored
Yeah,
machine.
that's the small one.
yeah,
And what happens if it's moist, if the leaves are wet at all?
Right, it was.
yeah, we just ordered new hose tops for that thing anyway, that's what happens to it.
I didn't even know we had one.
We got 2, we got a big one.
Do we have big one now?
Yeah.
So we don't use the bulldozer anymore?
Yeah, we use the payloader, we use that.
All right, my comment towards that is the payloader is a much more efficient operation. You don't need as many men, doesn't take as much time, and
Point well taken, because
so,
the small one doesn't, and you're right, the small one just doesn't do it. We have another larger one that really works well. It really becomes a 2-man operation, 3-man operation. operation.
So that machine should be taken out of service altogether.
On the street stuff, they normally use it with the parks, in the parks, you got bushes and things like that, it don't work very well. Under this circumstance, it doesn't. I'll talk to Joe about that tomorrow.
All right, now, I'd like to ask regarding the amplified music. I'd like to ask you, Mr. Mayor, and the board to consider lowering the sound decibel levels. It is just plain too loud. There is no other way I can put it.
And I agree with you, especially when it comes to people place, we have to deal with them.
So I'd like you to consider lowering the decibel levels.
Kyle.
Yeah.
Yeah, those two.
All right, now, this evening I received an anonymous flyer in my door regarding this incident with the police officer. And I can't see any way that the village of Patchogue could have done anything to prevent it. But this letter does go into details. This is anonymous, but it does speak of 16 Jennings Avenue, and it states that at this address there have been muggings. A man was robbed of $200 in broad daylight. The residence of the perpetrator, none other than 16 Jennings Avenue. I am aware that this house, 16 Jennings Avenue, is a multi-family house. I believe it has at least 4 electric meters.
No, it is, we know it is, we've had issues there.
Right, and it was also raided by the Suffolk County Police Department for drugs, and they made some arrests. But
I mean, the gentleman with the incident the other night was from Brentwood.
well,
And the New York City police officer was going down the blocks of this. But no, I know that 16 Jennings, I'll speak to building and housing tomorrow. So maybe you can check on it.
Yeah, I'll check it.
Check with Jimmy Ferb.
all right, now, I also have a concern of a gun being discharged,
No, there was a police officer.
because a gun, once it goes off, the bullet's gonna go somewhere, and somebody could have been killed.
Well, you know, again, when it was assaulted, the guy doing the assault didn't realize he was a New York City police officer. And they have every legal right and right, because they're always on duty. You know, if you said to me, it was just somebody carrying a weapon, or Joe Blow, I'll agree with you. But
A loaded weapon.
yeah, that's what police officers carry. Doesn't do a lot of good.
Uniformed or ununiformed?
Off duty. He was off duty on his way. He must have been somewhat uniformed in the sense, they said he had his holster on.
They're supposed to have a gun, I thought it was his gun, and really not a gun.
Well, I don't think Mr. Kemp was here when we discussed that.
From what I have read and what I've been told, he was obviously off duty, coming back from playing with the crowds, probably on the FDR Drive or something, the riots in the city, and going home. This guy from Redwood made a mistake, picked on the wrong guy.
Well, you know, there has also been incidents that I've spoken about. A man on Lake Street was hit in the head with a beer bottle. I never heard anything about that. Nobody here knew anything about it. And that was the end of that.
If the police don't give us the report, then I have no way of knowing it. They don't say to me every morning, this is the list of what's happened. I don't get that. If I hear it happen, like I got to call it on this about 15 minutes after it happened. I then spoke to the police that evening, and then I met with them the following morning. And then we got some of the reports in today. They don't owe me a phone call. They will contact me. And it's interesting because I spoke to them that night. The next morning, I got a call from Coach Sergeant Heller about this. They will call me on things like this, but generally, they go about their business.
All right, I've spoken to you numerous times at these meetings about the drinking in Patchogue Village, the
Mr. Kemp.
DWI arrest.
Mr. Kemp, there are businesses on Main Street. We have choices to make. I don't lease property out. I don't rent property out. I don't sell buildings. We have our building and housing department that makes sure that they are safe, the health department, and fire. I can't stop people from selling what they sell within the establishments they have. People would like me to, but we can't, and we don't. We could be what we were in 2003, 2004. Main Street was nothing on it, except a brick house and leases. We could go back to that. If that's what we would like to be. Very quiet, no loud music, nobody on Main Street, not a problem, except there's nobody on Main Street.
Well, you
You
know,
only have two places. If that's the kind of community you want to live in, I think you should go look for that kind of community to live in. We're not going to go back there. It's not the way the world works.
I agree with you entirely, that's not the way the world works. But I will say this, that many communities have changes. The Belport stores recently reopened with a BJ store there. Highly successful and safe.
It is.
And that is my concern, is safety.
Absolutely, and I agree with you 100%. That's why we put 4 guys on every weekend, 5 guys on every weekend.
some weekends, 5 guys.
Depending upon what's happening. That's why we meet on a regular basis with certain PD. That's why the PD, there was a window that was broken, and as the glass hadn't even hit the ground, and the police officer was there and arrested the kid.
It just appears that there's
And I agree with you. I'm very concerned.
What type of businesses are coming in are not in the best interest of Patchogue. And it appears that the zoning board approves of every application that comes before them.
If you don't, in the business district they're in, every place that's open is open legally. It's an as-of-right use to make a restaurant or a quote bar on any store on Main Street or South Ocean Avenue. We don't control it. The D3 Business District was created in 1953. It has been what it is since then. If we try to upzone it to where you can't, it would never happen. I'll let Trustee Egan.
I just agree. I mean, I don't see a gap coming. I don't see we tried many times for a supermarket. That has not, as of this point, come to fruition. I know that private landlords have made active pitches to boards of major supermarkets to come, and they've been rebuffed so far. And I gotta rely upon the private landlords because they have the greatest financial incentive to make that happen, because the commercial taxes in the village of Patchogue are far in excess than our residential taxes, and there's a reason why. Because they subsidize us. And that landlord, if he wants to get a supermarket, have every economic incentive to make that happen, to get that as a rent payer. And from the economics of it, it couldn't get that specific tenant to come.
Even went to the extent of going to planning board and getting approvals for the space that would accommodate a supermarket.
And the loading dock, the approval of the loading dock to put it in, knowing that that was gonna be a requirement they would require. And he did all of that expense on his own, he couldn't get it.
Well, speaking of loading docks, the number of tractor trailers, 53 footers that I see coming down my street, and then when they come down Thorn Street and head south, and they get halfway down the block and they realize, I can't make the turn. And then they put it in reverse. A 53-foot tractor trailer.
How often does that happen? There's a moving truck for a family trying to move. Well, I've seen that happen, where there's been a Mayflower truck that's gotten stuck because the family was moving. I went up to that truck and said, you can't be on the side streets in the village of Patchogue because it's against the code. Of course, I didn't get it. The as polite a response as I would normally have liked when I was trying to inform him of his traffic infraction. However, that is the law in the village of Patchogue. You cannot be on a side street as a trafficker with a truck. Public safety is all over that.
I've seen food purveyors.
If that comes at a regular time, let us know,
Yeah,
because that absolutely.
We'll put up some additional signs. We did it on Ocean Avenue, look together. We're trying to get around the Ocean Avenue. Come to town.
All right, the whole thing that I'm trying to impress is that all of the types of businesses that you are allowing, it's not a balance. And I did ask if you would consider a moratorium, and you ignored me. So I do not think that you are acting in the best interest of the general public. And that's what I have to say.
Any other comments? Go ahead. Gentleman in the back, you want to speak?
I was going to follow, but I'll wait. Go ahead.
Real quick. John Bogack, Master Street. This has come up before, about issues, crime issues. Mr. Kemp has raised these things before, and my response is going to be the same as I said the last time. Tomorrow night, the police are having a community meeting at the Patchogue Library. The inspector for the 5th precinct presides at these meetings. This is the perfect opportunity for any person that has concerns about their neighborhoods to go. Because what they will also do in that contact is form, if necessary, a neighborhood watch for the Jennings Avenue neighborhood. I'm a little concerned that anonymous literature is going out, because this is like a witch hunt. I can understand the concerns of people, but that's the exact opposite of what we need. They need to meet with the police and form concrete strategies for dealing with whatever issues that they feel that they have. So that would be my recommendation, that let's keep that, we should always keep that in mind, that the police, they don't call you, but they are available to the public. Yes. And all you have to do once a month is go to that meeting. You have access to the inspector, local officers as well.
And he's a good guy.
And you can express your concerns and take action. So.
Inspector Heath is a good man too. He listens and he helps.
Yes, he does. Thank you.
In fact, no.
Good evening. Mayor Pontieri, I live on 43 Jennings Avenue. Patchogue, obviously. First of all, thank you for your service. And, obviously, some of the stuff you heard you mention tonight, I'm not going to go into too many details, but it gets even a little closer to home. Because who was assaulted and the relationship I have with him. And the fact that my children were 100 yards away when that all went off. My personal opinion is that the most important job that any private government performs is to keep our community safe. Whether it's local, county, state, or federal. On May 12th, I came and I dropped a letter off with concerns that I have for the safety of people on Jennings Avenue. And there were numerous concerns that I had. This obviously heightens my concern. And again, I'm not exaggerating when I say my daughter was 100 yards away with 3 other children driving by. You know, one of the things I put in that letter on May 12th was that I just want to read you one line that the health and safety of residents of Jennings Avenue is at risk. We still continue to have problems with certain houses on that block. I'm getting to the point where I'm going to wring someone's neck because the Suffolk County Police Department is doing absolutely nothing. Nothing. I shouldn't say that in public, but that's to the point where I'm at. I cannot walk into my house, cannot go to work without worrying about my family. Over 60 times, the police have been to a couple houses within 3 or 4 houses of my house. You know, and Patchogue, I agree, going down to Main Street has gotten a lot better. But I'm telling you, that strip right there has gotten a lot worse since 1991 when I moved in. Something needs to be done. Something needs to be done now. I don't know what the answer is. It's not going to be one part of government that takes care of it. You know, I don't know what to do.
Let me do this.
Yes.
What time do you, give me a call tomorrow. Let's take a look at the calendar. What I'd like to do is get Sergeant Hellerman from the precinct, the code officer, one afternoon, and sit down and go through the things that you've seen, the addresses that you have, and those concerns. And let's see Heller's a good man, and the Coke guys are good guys. Let's sit and talk to them one afternoon. Give me a call tomorrow.
Okay,
And we'll take a look at the calendar. I gotta give a call to him when he's on days. He'll probably late afternoon, 5:30 or so, something like that.
okay, good, yeah, that's fine, I'll call.
I also make a recommendation, you want to have the chief building inspector there too, just so
Yeah.
that we have the, when you call the mayor, you've got houses that are repeated problems.
Yes.
Give those addresses, you don't have to say them on the record now, give them to the mayor on the call.
Right.
And then we'll make sure we pull the building department files to make sure that what you are seeing matches up with the reality of what our building department files look like.
Let me give you my card.
Yeah. I'd like to give you this letter too, just get one written. Right, I can call it?
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. Use the 459 number. Okay.
All
And
right.
then what I'll do is, I'll take a look at my calendar. I'll try to get a hold of, so I can tell him tomorrow to find out what his schedule is over the next 2 weeks.
Right.
And when vacation stuff, you guys?
Just, December 19th, one day, December 20th, the 18th, something like that. Around 17th.
Okay. Hopefully before that,
Right.
but if not, we'll do something during.
Just one very, very clear, well, I like to, when I said not doing anything, not directing it towards anyone.
No,
The officer,
No, but I
yeah.
think your point's well taken.
Right.
Yeah, as is Mr. Kemp's point, well taken. You know, we need to sit down and come up with a plan.
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna do, and how we're gonna handle it.
And I just want to say one more thing, and I appreciate that, you know, I'm not an easily intimidated man, I don't mean that, I'm a tough guy, man. I'm not an easily intimidated man. I'm walking down my block, looking over my shoulder. It's getting to the point where I don't want to let my son go to find his fitness and come home. Because I
Can't be that way.
can't be that way, that's where we're at. Thank you.
Any other comments? Please go.
Josephine Miller, 276 West Avenue. I want to comment on Mr. Kemp's issues about alcohol. Basically, you said that we cannot control who landlords choose to rent their buildings. A lot of influence, not much happen. Well, let me finish, and then I'll listen to what you have to say. You know, it's disingenuous to say that it's out of your hands. It's just not out of your hands. When we had the application for the hookah, I think that's how you say it, you were very, very clear that you were opposed to it, you let it be known. One of the things you said was, you know, you lost your dad at an early age, health issues were an issue for you, and you didn't think that this was a good thing. You know, okay, so I'm going to pose a question to the board. I don't expect an answer, but maybe it's something you all might want to think about. If marijuana became legal tomorrow, and it might, it probably will, and the landlords decided to rent to marijuana clubs, how comfortable would you all be? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Any other comments? Everybody have a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, have a great holiday. David and Jerry, I'll probably see you guys tomorrow afternoon. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.